What's up everybody and welcome to another Python video. Well, this is kind of a different video than what I'm usually posting. This is actually my chess engine showcase. A chess engine that I started in 5th grade and I finished last year, October of 2023. And it is basically a fully functional GUI and a move generator along with an API that even you could take and make your own GUI out of. It is everything and handles everything for you. So in this video, I'm just going to show you how I started, when I started, and the steps I took to making this, and then more about it itself. In the end, we'll have some demos. Alright, so you're seeing how it looks like right now. That's like the fully finished one. There's still a lot of room for improvement, and it can be a lot better. There's a lot to still be worked on, but this is just what I've come up with so far, and I haven't worked on it really a lot. Alright, so here we are. You can see right off the bat that I'm importing lots of libraries. Yes, there is an AI. I am also making my own AI. It is not even close to being done yet, but it is getting there. And then you'll see pandas and Pygame. So everything is based off of Pygame and pandas. So this is the most recent and latest one. Now let's take steps back and go to my old files. So for whatever reason, I was making this thing and then I broke off and branched out into different files, saving the old thing. I assume I was making something completely different or adding something completely new that I wasn't sure was going to work, so I could always revert back very easily. So that's why these are kind of marking points and check marks. So you can see here that, well, let's actually go ahead and run it first. Okay, so you can see that I have no pieces, the colors are ugly, it's literally black and white. And then you can't differentiate between the black and white pieces, and it's all blue and it's all text and it's all ugly. I also have a timer with the all pixelated stuff. So you can see that I can move my pieces, assuming you know which one's which. It's kind of like blind chess. It can work. I'm assuming there were some errors with checking and all of that stuff because it didn't work out very well. If we move bishop, there's no castling. I can't castle, I didn't have that yet. But that's that. But if you do notice, it's the text that is unique in this situation because this is not a Pygame font and this is not a Windows font. So I actually made my own text engine for Pygame. And here we are at it. It is every single English character in pixel. So I have this add and then a line to make it easier for myself, and I literally went through and made everything, like literally hard-coded everything. And then I added the numbers as well, and then I added a colon because we want the colon. And then to wrap it up, I made my own function to make sure it would be completely generated, along with some special characters that needed some extra help. Alright, so just to give this a test, you can take out the text tester, and you can see that the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. It's got all the characters. So yeah, that's basically it. And now let's go back to our original thing. And yes, the text function is over here, but it doesn't have to be here. I think I was making it in this file. Okay, so now we can take a step into the future. And I did not actually go over the organization of the old and another old, so we can actually go through that really quickly. The main thing about the early stages of my chess engine was getting the legal move generator working. And over here is just a function that's about 300 lines, very bad practice, and it's got nested functions. Again, very bad practice. But keep in mind, I was very young at this point, and I most likely didn't know what I was doing. You see all of this strange hard-codedness, and you see all these numbers and coordinates. Well, all of this matches up, if we go all the way down on how the game is actually handled. This is the very foundation of my game. It is these three lists. And it is probably the most horrendous piece of code I will ever create and hope to ever create, but this could all be combined into one pandas data frame as you saw earlier, but essentially it is the coordinates of the board. So 150, and you can see over here if we go to the top, 150, 150, that's the very top left rook. And then I have the names in that order, so again that's the rook. And for some reason FP sides, I decided not to do capital and lowercase, but just add another list with just white and black, just W and B. So I do not know what I was thinking when doing this, but every time I want to change something in one, to change in all three of them, and that is just very tedious and inefficient. Unfortunately, you do not see any improvement in that situation in another old, but we do have a bit more work in the move generator happening. So now it became get all moves, and then you have all of these separate functions that are outside of it, and it seems to be doing quite a bit more because it's got quite a bit more lines to it. But again, it's still managed horribly. I don't know what happened to the spacing, and yeah, it's that's just it. Let's go ahead and have a look at it. So here you can finally see that the pieces are centered and they can float, can move. Look at that. So now you have moving pieces, and it looks a lot prettier in terms of actual movability and smoothness. It is still horrendous, but it's a lot better, and I think I was very proud of this when I had made it. Okay, so now that we have gone through that, let's go back to the modern engine and check out how that is all based off. So eventually, I wanted to separate the GUI and the API into different files and separate those even further to make it better. And you can see in all these examples, they're all in the same file, and it's a horrendously lengthy file. It's nothing pretty, so I separated it out, and you can see that this file itself is really long, so we have a lot more things. And then we have the move generator. So this got put into a completely different class, and it's pretty darn long, but it is the raw getting all pieces function. That's all it does essentially, and then some extra pawn promotion things that needed some help with separate functions. This goes directly into the chess API, and I tried to make this as usable and as reusable as I possibly could. So I have all the written instructions here for anybody new who would want to check it out. I implemented fen strings to make sure you would be able to do that. So I created my own fen string to pandas data frame and all of that. So if I fold this and unfold, no, that didn't work, but okay, so I have print board, so this you can use in the API tester. So I created a terminal-based API as well. Oh, we can go ahead and check that out right now, actually. So this, to test things out, I created the terminal-based one. So here you can see this is a situation of promotion. Well, you can enter a UCI move, so I could say something like G7 to G8. And it would promote it, but it doesn't do the promotion. I need to actually say something. So if we go here, now it's Black's turn, we could say E2. Am I looking at that right? Yeah, E2 to E1 queen, and that would make it a queen. So that's kind of how it works. I was using this to test out basic scenarios before I implemented them completely into the GUI. But that's where the print board comes in. It prints it into the terminal nicely. And then we have the move, of course, it's the main thing of this entire thing. You can move, and it takes in UCI inputs, which is basically the square to square. So you're moving a piece on this square to this square, and it will tell you if it's legal or not. And then once we have that, we have the game state, so checkmate with the king, which king is being checkmated, and check and draw. And then, of course, a very important thing, get legal moves, which it takes directly from the move generator, and then adds its own little bits to it. We have is fen valid because if a fen is inputted and it is not complete or it's missing something, we need to know so the whole thing doesn't fail. So it does release errors to make sure that the fen string is valid. And then we have my own fen to data frame. So even in the API, it is managed with the data frame. It's just 0 to 7, or you could say 1 to 8, but we love zeros in Python. And then we have A to H. So it is actually managed like a real chessboard. And yeah, the rest, it's got board history, undo moves, which is useful in pawn promotion, and then other random things like switch turn as well. So now we can actually go back here. There's one more thing I need to tell you about, and that is the pieces. So for the pieces themselves, I had to create individual files. I cropped them, and then I created a program to perfectly crop them. So if we go ahead and have a look at these, you can see the bishop. They're all individual files. I don't have an atlas or anything, but it's perfectly cropped edge to edge. I created a program to do that to each and every one of these. and make them so perfect so that I could exactly get the center. And that is all handled over here in the pieces file. Please note though that the main part of all of this was made when ChatGPT wasn't really a thing. This AI did not really exist. It was like the dawn of AI. So I did not really have a lot of help. It was just me and Stack Overflow that helped me out whenever I needed it, but I knew most of what had to happen as I was making it. It was just pandas took a little bit of time to get used to because this was like my first time dealing with pandas. And I decided to make such a big project out of it. But that aside, I even separated everything into a chess game. So for back in the normal, I have test case scenarios, and this is my Pygame loop. So it's really simple. AI is not playing right now, but I put everything into a function so this would be as readable as possible. So we can just navigate to each function, and it's literally nothing pretty. It's a bunch of stuff that's happening. It's dealing with pawn promotion. It's dealing with moving the pieces, making sure they're going to the correct spots. It's fetching from the API. That's all it's really doing. And then we also have some cool highlights. So this is my init. It's got move indicators and it's got hitboxes. It's initializing a lot of stuff. But that's essentially how it's doing. I mean, it's not a beautiful explanation, but it's the main thing here. A lot of what you're going to see is pawn promotion. It's like a dedicated 50 lines of code in every move function. And we have the background render, which renders essentially everything. So checkmate or draw, it's rendering the indicators for check or checkmate with blinkings and non-blinkings. So you'll see that in the demos. And then we're even updating when to blink and when to not. We're rendering the winners, and then we're moving. So when the mouse is down, we need to make sure we're moving it at the mouse position. So not the best explanation, but hopefully you get what I'm trying to say. It's a very big project. It was very difficult to make. But now that we have all the boring stuff out of the way, let's go ahead and get into some demos. Okay, so as you can see here, we have a situation where white can promote and so can black. It's a very simple situation, really, but let's look at what are the options. So it is white to move, and as you can see, we have white being able to go up. The king can move as well. So let's go ahead and hit promote, and now we are presented with all of these options, so perfectly symmetrical and aligned. So we can go queen, and then knight, rook, and bishop. I can also click out, so I'm like, yeah, I'm going to promote, but nah, I don't want to really promote. I'm going to move my king instead. So let's go ahead and promote to a queen. So now we are in check. You can go ahead and move out of that. And now let's say I want to stop the black's promotion. So now black can also promote, again, clicking out. Reason I emphasize that is because I thought that was really special that you could click out. I mean, it's normal, but it was just really difficult to get all of this working. But, okay, so now since we know we're going to die, typically we'll just make it a rook. And that won't do anything, we can just take it. Very simple, like that. And now it's black to move, and you can see there's many things are limited. And, yeah. Alright, let's go ahead and move on to the next thing, which is going to be castling. Alright, so here we have our castling situation, and I have put in so that the castling rights are KQ and KQ for both sides, which means that both kings have the potential to castle on either queenside or kingside. Now let's go ahead and look at what it looks like for white. So you can see that we're not able to castle queenside, but we can definitely castle kingside. And this is because of another feature or rule in chess, where the bishop, the opponent's, or any piece of the opponent, is blocking off any square that's in the path of castling, then the king cannot castle to that side. So here we have the bishop blocking the B1 square, and therefore the king cannot castle on that side. But if we go ahead and block this up, now we can look at black, and black can definitely castle on both sides. And now white can also castle on this side, so I showed you queen side, go ahead castle king side. So that is how the castling would work. Now I can go ahead and set it up so that there are no castling rights by removing the KQ and KQ from the fence string input. So now you can see that if I click on White's King, we only have one step in either direction, and we do not have two steps, which indicates that the castling cannot occur because we have blocked the rights of castling. So I could try, and I would move one step over here. Now I could try to do the same for the Black King, and you can see that since I do not have any castling rights, I cannot castle. Okay, so that's castling out of the way. Now let's look at a quick promotion situation, since I did not cover that yet. Okay, so I showed off how you could promote two different pieces, but what does that look like in the case of an actual game? Now this situation is very unlikely to happen because you could have probably checkmated the king many, many moves ago. But in this situation, we have a mate in one. Now, there are many ways you could probably accomplish this, but one way is to promote to a knight. So we could promote to a queen, but that would just lead to a very quick stalemate, potentially, if we did something with the knight. But here, the mate in one is going to be promoting to a knight. So let's look at how that would look like. We can go ahead and select the knight. Now you can see that the king has no valid square to go, and the knight delivers checkmate. So that's another way this promotion can be seen in action. Okay, let's move on to the next situation. Okay, so here's a situation of, we could say, checkmate. You can also draw in this situation by creating a stalemate. We can have a checkmate, a stalemate, and yeah, so let me go ahead and demonstrate a checkmate here. We have multiple ways to checkmate. We could move the king over and checkmate back rank, or we could go ahead and just place the queen here. And once that the red just stays solid on top of black, and we have a checkmate, white wins. Now let's go ahead and demonstrate drawing position right over there. So I reset the situation, and it is white to move. So I could go ahead and, well, I could have it so that the king takes the queen, or I could create a stalemate. So let's go ahead and make it so that the king can take a queen. So you can see that we have red and red solid. The game hasn't seemed to end. I think that's something I could definitely add, but this is a situation of draw. Another situation of draw is, if I reset, we could have stalemate. So let's go ahead and line the kings up. Alright, and this queen movement should cause a stalemate. And there you have it. The black king has no potential move to make anywhere on the board since it is a loner, and it has no moves. So that is another way to draw. Now let's go ahead and look at a special case, such as en passant. Alright, so in en passant, you can see there is these weird situations, but essentially we have the D pawn, black's D pawn, that can get killed by en passant potentially, and white's pawn on its very first move that can also get en passanted. So we have black to move, go ahead and make that move, and now white has the potential to kill that pawn, or just to move forward. So using en passant rules, you can kill like that. So now black can avoid, well, not really, but here we can, let's just say we want to move forward. And now white can try to move 2 steps ahead to gain a tempo off of black. But black can say no, and they can en passant this way as well. So that's en passant just 1 or 2. But I had a situation where I wanted to make sure there was history. So what happens if we have multiple en passant possibilities? Here is one of those situations that you will probably, hopefully, never encounter. But essentially, it is black to move, and we can en passant many ways. So, for example, if black goes here, we should be able to en passant this way and this way. So I can take with either side. So let's go ahead and take with this side, and that should kill it. Now, let's say I want to move this pawn forward, and I want to jump. So, of course, I can kill it, but I want to jump up. And now, well, I can en passant here, but this pawn cannot en passant. It can just take the next pawn. Go ahead, do that. But this ensures that the history of who can en passant where is maintained. Alright, so now let's go ahead and look at a different scenario. Alright, so here is the two-move checkmate that you can recreate, and it just gives you an understanding of, well, this thing really does work. So, of course, this is very well known, but the two-move checkmate all starts out with white taking off of their f-pawn, and that is opening up this weak f square, the f2 square. And now queen can go ahead and the black can unleash the queen, and now white has completely given up the diagonal, so black can just go ahead, move their queen all the way over to h4, and that is a checkmate. So just a quick example of, hey, this can work. Alright, so that's essentially everything out of the way. You know, we've already demonstrated check. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.